Oh,
the
that's
output.
great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wish you all the best with that.
Thank you.
Did you say something, Patrick?
I was just testing them. I wasn't getting video before, but I've got it now and I'm testing the mic.
Oh, okay.
So it's working connected.
Right.
Well, 4 attempts to get connected. I don't know what's going on.
Google and YouTube have been down globally this morning.
Oh, well, that shouldn't affect us though. We're Zoom, aren't we?
Well,
Yeah, we have to go into
no
Google.
church's
Oh.
BT website has been out for 3 days because of BT's troubles, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's because of the blockages at the ports, I think.
Not enough Googles could get lorries full of Googles.
And anybody know where you can get homing pigeons from to send messages by pigeon?
To poach some.
I think that's going to be something that people really aren't considering very much now, but in the future will be a big problem because so many businesses are going to be run off the cloud.
Mm.
You have one outage somewhere and the whole thing just falls apart.
Mm.
And you've got all the repercussions of that.
Well, the so-called, about 2 years ago, the so-called fat pipe that the academic network uses from the UK to North America was out for about 4 days. I think some French trawler dug it up, dredged it up and broke it, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
I've just been out of the room for a minute, but has anyone said hello to Hule?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
I'll say hello to Sheila too as well.
Hello.
Good to have you with us.
Interesting. We've got Clive on twice.
Yeah, I'm worrying about that. Can you see 2 images or 2 attempts to join you?
I'll remove your other one.
If you could.
There we go.
Perhaps Clive, perhaps you should see a psychiatrist.
Well, I am a Gemini and it's a bit worrying.
You can remove both if you want.
Unkind.
Okay, give it another minute or two and then we'll start.
Who's the first one in the club who's going to have their vaccination? Who do we... is it the over 80s, isn't it? Presumably. Has anybody been booked in yet?
I'm waiting for it.
I haven't heard either, no.
I've been offered one as a guinea pig for a different vaccine.
Oh.
It's not the Chinese one, is it?
Is that the Russian one?
Not a Sputnik one. No, it's an American one. I don't know. It's through the NHS, so it's proper.
Is that a trial? In other words, you might get it and you might not.
Well, that's the worry, and they've queried that because people are declining to do it because you might get the placebo.
Yeah.
They said they're going to come up with something to make sure that you get something, whether it's the real one or this trial. But
I think in a lot of medical
avoid
trials now,
placebos.
I think in a lot of medical trials now, if you go in and you have the placebo, at the end of the trial, they do offer you the real thing.
Oh, do they? Yeah.
Someone does that.
Makes it worth your while.
Mm.
Okay,
No,
let's make a start. Okay, I'll make a start. So just going to mute everybody. Okay, so participants are able to unmute themselves. Okay, so welcome everybody to this meeting of the Rotary Club of Leicester on the 14th of December. And I'd just like to welcome our guest once again, Hule, is it Regina? Have I pronounced that okay? Yes, okay. And she's studying at De Montfort University for a PhD. So do we have any other guests or visiting Rotarians? Okay. Do you have any greetings from other clubs? No, none today. Okay. I'll just quickly update you all on what we've been doing so far. So just in terms of this week, David Howard and myself went to do a few more bucket collections for Vista. Vista are a charity helping people, the partially sighted people all around Leicester. They're doing a very good job. There's two things they need help with right now. One is collecting money boxes, sort of elephant-shaped money boxes around shops all over the city. Some haven't been collected for over a year just because of their own lack of resources to go around and collect them. So if anybody is interested, just contact Paul Taylor or contact me, and I'll put you in touch with Paul. And all you need to do is go to the shop with an empty one, and then just give that to the shopkeeper and swap that for a full one, and then you give the full ones to Paul at the end of the week. And the last time we did it, we helped out. I think they pulled in something like £6,000 worth of money that just hadn't been collected by them. So they're looking to do that again. And the other thing they needed some help with was putting up some Christmas decorations at some of the care homes that they run. But we had a discussion around that, and we've already donated £500 to Vista this year. So we're not looking to make another donation, but if anybody's interested in helping or can help or can refer, then please get in touch again with Paul. They're quite keen to just get some kind of decorations up to make their residents' lives a bit more pleasant during Christmas. These will be outdoor decorations, I believe, just because of all these restrictions around COVID. So they're just something in the garden, I guess people can just appreciate, which I think is a nice thing to do. So coming up to the fundraising for Rotary Food Banks, we've had some very generous donations recently from Rotarians. And so we're coming up to £10,000 now that we've raised for that. And that's been fantastic to see all of us pull together and bring that figure up to that amount. And so I'm still waiting on John Cavey to give me instructions as to how we will go about purchasing pallets of food for the food banks, which Morrison's will then deliver to them in pallets of about £500 worth of food per pallet. So what I'm looking to do is, once we've had the arrangements put in place, it'd be nice for a few Rotarians to be there when the deliveries take place, and perhaps we can get some publicity for our social media channels, and it'd be really nice to do that, because the food banks at the moment are very keen to support the people that they're supporting on the ground. And so last week we had a good sense for that when we dropped off hampers. I think we've done probably around 70 hampers for our Christmas appeal. We've donated 70 odd hampers for the 5 food banks that we're supporting, and they've been immensely grateful for those. So, you know, the more we can do for them, the better, really. The demand on food banks, as you probably know, has increased and will continue increasing, I think, over the next year. And so they need as many resources as we can help them get. And some of them also need volunteers as well. For example, one of the food banks, Midlands Lunga Seva Society, MLSS, if you type that into Google, they're looking for delivery drivers on 3 p.m. on Sundays, which I've been doing for the last few weeks. Very, very straightforward. Quite nice to just pick up some food from a restaurant on London Road and just take it to 3 hotels. That's what I do. And you just give this basket of food over. It's already pre-packaged and everything else, so you don't have to handle the food itself. And again, I met some of the customers at the hotels, and they're very nice people, very grateful. And you know, you really get to see the impact you're able to have on people's lives doing things like that. So if anybody is interested or knows somebody who is, please let me know. Okay, we've got an online Santa, which has gone well. That's going to be coming up on the 19th and 21st. So we've got a few days left. Makes a wonderful gift for the grandparents, to grandkids, and to children as well. So if you know anybody who might be interested in that, or yourself, you'd be interested, please give me a shout. We'll send you a link, and the tickets are £20, and you can have as many children on the line as you like. So I'd recommend up to about 4, just to make it a reasonable experience. And the advantage with our online Santa is you get to send Santa anything you like about the children before the call. So Santa will know what to say to the kids about their whatever clubs they're involved in, or things that they've done that year to be congratulated upon, or presents that they want, that kind of thing. So it's really been nice to see the responses we've already had from people who've signed up to this. And I think one parent sent us something like 3 paragraphs worth of stuff she wanted Santa to talk about with her children. So it'll be a nice project, and we've raised from that already £120 for the food bank appeal. Other projects, still waiting for the Evington Youth Club to give us the nod, and then we can go over there and do some painting and a bit of general redecoration of that. We've got coming up to 20 people who are part of the road track club that we're forming. So that'll be an ideal project to get a bunch of road tractors out there. Once we're able to go to the youth club, because of COVID restrictions, we're not able to go there yet to assess the work that's required. And really we'll go there and do some painting work and have some fun, meet some new people. And so that project's coming up. The paperwork's all, I think, being finalised now for the road track club. So that's gone really well. And let me see what else. Oh, and then I'll just mention again the bridge evenings. They've been going fantastic. I've been playing that. I know Scott's been playing. Who else is here? That's a regular big bridge player. Clive and his wife Carol. Richard was there with his dogs and his partner. So it's been really nice. So if you're interested, and Roger as well played as well. And so if you're interested, contact Simon, and you can join on Tuesday and Friday evenings. And I believe he's putting some afternoon games together as well. Okay, do you have any notices from Barry, from Secretary? Is that a no, Barry? Okay, yeah, that is a no. Okay. Anything from committee chairman? I know, is Moira here? Did you want to mention anything, Moira, about the... There we go.
Yes. Yes, please. If you weren't at the meeting last week when I asked for volunteers to read young writer entries and would like to be on my list, then please tell me. I've got 174 entries. So the more the merrier. At the moment, I've only got 9 people on my list.
So just to clarify this, these are young people who've entered a competition called Young Writer, and you need people to assess their entries, their essays.
Yes, yes, I do.
And each essay is about a page, I think, isn't it? Because that was it.
Yes, it's now A4 sort of size.
Yeah, it's fun. I've done it before. It's very interesting to see the caliber of the students.
It's hugely interesting.
Yes, I'd agree.
I mean, some of them, not to put too fine a point on it, are rubbish, and some of them are absolutely excellent. And we have had winners in the national competition for some years. So if you haven't done it and you would like to, would you like to raise your hand?
Mm.
Roger told me last week, yes. Clive.
Patrick, David Brunton.
Yes, I've got David Brunton. Anybody else?
John Saunders, I can see.
I've got Gordon. John, yes.
Gordon.
And I've got Richard, yes.
Is that a hand up from Bob as well? Oh, and Bob as well, I think. Oh, that wasn't it.
Was that a hand, Bob?
Oh, he's gone now. He's done a runner. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
That's getting better.
Okay,
The more
great.
I have, the less you get.
All right, thanks, Moira. Anybody else? Any other committee chairman? No? Okay, fantastic. So we'll move on to our speaker, who is Sheila North from Parkinson's UK. Really pleased to have you with us, Sheila. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, I think you'd have to do it from your side. I would do it for you, but I'm not able to. Usually in the bottom left of your screen, there'll be a...
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
There.
Take it away, Sheila. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for inviting me to come and speak to you in this new normal way of meeting. So I was working as a physiotherapist at Rolls-Royce Aerospace in Derby in 1995 when I began to notice that I couldn't write my notes up at the end of the day. My writing got smaller and smaller and it went down the page. I couldn't keep it on the line. I also noticed that as I walked, my right arm wasn't swinging, and I only noticed that because I saw a reflection of myself in a big mirror. And I never noticed that this arm just hung at my side. If you look on YouTube, you'll see some recent footage of Putin, and he's walking in the same way, and there is speculation that he may have Parkinson's too. So I was working as a physiotherapist. My handwriting was small, my arm was tiring easily, so being a sensible, responsible health professional, I ignored it. I ignored it for about a year, and then I went to see my GP, who immediately referred me to the consultant, and I saw him about 3 weeks later, and he took a couple of minutes to diagnose me. He actually said, "What do you think you've got?" And I said, "Well, I think it must be MS." And he said, "No, it's not MS." And I thought, "Oh, thank goodness for that." And he said, "But it is Parkinson's." I was 42. I was married to Barry. I still am. We have 2 children who then were Peter, who was 11, and Claire was 8. I was devastated. I drove to the Attenborough Nature Reserve, which is close to where we live, and I just cried my eyes out over and over again until it was time to fetch the children from school. And then I blew my nose and we carried on as usual. We told the people who we thought ought to know, but I thought I was quite good at hiding the problem, until one of my patients, who also had Parkinson's, I said, "I need to tell you I've got Parkinson's too." And he said, "Yeah, I know. I was waiting for you to tell me." So he could see. So then I realised I wasn't that good at hiding it. We delayed telling the children, but one day I was in the car with Claire, who was about 8. And there was an article on about Michael J. Fox, who had recently been diagnosed. Claire said, "What's Parkinson's?" And I said, "Well, you know my arm wobbles. Well, that wobbly arm is Parkinson's. I've got the same as Michael J. Fox." And she said, "Are you going to die?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Okay." And that was the end of that. I worried so much about telling them, and it was just very straightforward in the end. So I knew that I was going to lose my dexterity, but I wanted to stay at work. So I sort of thought perhaps I could move into the health and safety field. But my manager, who is an occupational health physician, said, "Why didn't I do an MSc at Nottingham on a subject called Human Factors in Manufacturing Systems, which means looking at people's bodies when they're doing very heavy work and working out whether they're in a good posture or whether they're working at the right angle." Now, I trained as a physiotherapist when it was a diploma course, so I didn't have the knowledge and skills of an undergraduate, being able to go in the library and look up references and things like that and follow the process of doing that. So it was with trepidation that I set off for Nottingham University at the age of 45. I did it over 2 years part-time and I had a ball. I absolutely loved it. It was daunting, of course, and sometimes I couldn't really see what I was learning was to do with physiotherapy. At one point, we were dispatched to a small factory down a back street in Dudley, looking at U-bends in Renault vans which were fracturing without cause, and they thought it might be some of the way that they were bending the rods. Well, we did it in the end, but as a group of postgraduate students, we weren't very professional in what we did, but we got there in the end. We spent a very confusing and hectic afternoon observing, measuring and collecting data, and then presenting it back at the university. I felt well out of my depth, but it all came together in the end, and I passed my final exams with an amazing sense of achievement. I'd done it whilst working full-time, looking after a husband and 2 teenage children by then, and living with Parkinson's. I did my dissertation on the management of low back pain amongst aero engine fitters at Rolls-Royce. I investigated the reasons and recommended changes to the work practices, which was part of the evidence that was given for them completely revamping the way they made engines. Unfortunately, the company were deciding to outsource the occupational health department, and I knew that I would be transferred under the TUPE regulations. So I asked if I could leave on ill health grounds, and eventually I retired in 2003, just before my 50th birthday. So what did the future hold? Well, a little more about Parkinson's first. Parkinson's is a progressive, degenerative neurological condition for which there is no cure. You might have caught some adverts for Parkinson's which have been on the Channel 4 and all its little extra program places. It's a condition that is caused when part of the brain dies, a very, very tiny part of the brain called the substantia nigra, posh name, which is deep hidden in the brain, and that produces a chemical called dopamine, and dopamine is what we're short of. It's a transmitter substance in the brain. Dopamine is a very important chemical transmitter, and it works in lots of different places in the brain. The brain works by sending messages in 2 ways, chemical and electrical, and they work together, one triggering the other. The average human being is born with enough dopamine to last till they're 120, but mine ran out at 40, so I'm wondering who's got mine. The result of this shortage is that our movements are no longer smooth and accurate. We go too far to reach things, or not far enough. We develop a tremor. 70% of people with Parkinson's will have a tremor. It's a very slow tremor, really. Mine's obviously a bit evident at the moment. We also develop a slouch. We lose our facial expression and our feet stick to the floor. We freeze in doorways and we fall over very easily. This can lead to accusations of being drunk. Now, I don't mind being accused of being drunk if I've had something to drink, but I do object to it when I'm not able to drink because it sends me to sleep. I have been very fortunate. When I retired, I thought that was it. I was no more of any use to anybody. But about 3 weeks after I retired, I was at the GP's when I picked up a leaflet about a new imported scheme from Stanford University in the States. This was teaching people with long-term conditions how to teach other people with long-term conditions how to manage their conditions better. So eating properly, taking their medicines regularly, being ready when they go for a clinic appointment so that they could explain what their problems were, and keeping fit. I signed up for the course, trained as a facilitator, and taught lots of courses in the next 5 years or so. One of which I was able to teach was inside Watton Prison on the other side of Nottingham. Watton Prison is solely there for sex offenders, and a lot of men, and well, men there because it's a male prison. They're not convicted until they're in their 50s and 60s, until their children have their own children. So the carers are the prison officers, and at one point they're prison officers, but they're also having to help their prisoners get into bed, get out of bed, and they found a bit of a conflict of their emotions really in what they were doing. So 2 of us took this course. It had been adapted, and we ran it for 6 weeks. It was an amazing experience, and the prison officers responded really well. It was a real privilege to have been allowed to do it. At that time, I became involved with working with Parkinson's UK. The all-party parliamentary group for people, for MPs and peers who are interested in Parkinson's, had done some research into the management of newly diagnosed people. I was asked to make a short speech in the Palace of Westminster. This remains one of the highlights of my life, as you can imagine. I didn't make a particularly good speech, but the reason that we were there was because the research that they had done found that prompt referral to a neurologist for treatment was a postcode lottery. I live in Nottingham, and at the time I was diagnosed within 3 weeks. After I spoke, a gentleman from Sleaford in Lincolnshire told his story. He went to the GP, who said, well, I think you've got Parkinson's, but you can't see a consultant for 6 months, so go home and forget about it. It's a pretty big, difficult thing to forget about. The juxtaposition of the two speeches was very powerful, and we felt we had made an impact. Meanwhile, my Parkinson's was rather like living with a very old cat. It was always there, but you only noticed it occasionally, when you ventured into the depths of the airing cupboard. I could still walk okay, I could still dance, but at one function my son wandered over to me and said, "Move your arm, mother, you look ridiculous." I used to say then, "He'll go far." Well, he's not gone far, he's a policeman in Derby. I've now had Parkinson's for 25 years. Most of those I have been really well. Some of that wellness came from the fact that a year after being diagnosed with Parkinson's, I was told I had celiac disease. This is the intolerance to wheat protein, which makes the lining of your small bowel very smooth so it cannot absorb nutrients. So I was chronically short of iron. I'd been anemic all my life. But when I was told, I stopped eating gluten, and within 6 weeks I had normal blood tests for my iron levels. Unfortunately, I've also got a bit of osteoporosis because I didn't absorb calcium either. So I'd spoken in the Palace of Westminster, and the CEO of the charity, for whatever reasons, nominated me to be a European advocate for Parkinson's, to be trained and sponsored by a Belgian drug company called UCB. The tickets arrived and I flew to Brussels, was met by a chauffeur with a black Mercedes and whisked into central Brussels to the Hotel Dominican, where I was introduced to about a dozen other trainee advocates. And we spent a week learning how to tell our stories, which is what I'm doing now. Then we were invited back on a regular basis to present our stories to UCB employees. I went to Brussels many times between 2009 and 2011, and I've been back several times since, but it had gone very quiet on that front until about 2 days ago, when they contacted me again and said they were resurrecting the programme and would I like to be involved. So hopefully I shall be going again, if the Europeans will let me in, of course. In February 2012, I was out with some friends and someone mentioned about being a games maker. I didn't know what they were talking about, but I went home and I looked on the Olympics website and saw the information for joining the Olympic Committee, for being a games maker for the 2012 Olympics. Then I read the bit where it said applications have now closed. My heart sank. Then I saw another notice that said, if you would like to be a performer in the opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games, apply here. So I started to fill the form out, and then there were questions like, what circus skills do you have? And there were little boxes afterwards, so you could tick trampoline artist or tightrope walker, lion tamer. No, I didn't really say that one. But I thought discretion was the better part of valour, and I didn't fill any of those forms in. However, I did get an audition and I was accepted. And therefore, on opening night of the Paralympics in 2012, there I was in the stadium, acting alongside Ian McKellen, is it? Can't remember. One of the big famous actors. I boast about being on the stage with him, but I don't think he does the same for me. So, Sir Ian McKellen, that's it. I knew I'd find it somewhere. The expert patient programme that I worked for was a great success, so the NHS decided that it must earn its own money. It was a free course funded by the NHS, and therefore they made it into a community interest company. It died. People of working age with a long-term condition were a substantial percentage of the course members, and pensioners who had obviously had long-term conditions were not well off, so it couldn't fund itself and it died. Fortunately for me, Parkinson's UK were developing their own self-help management course, so I joined that and was the longest serving tutor when it was axed for being too expensive 3 years ago. In April 2016, I was invited to speak at the Inner Wheel Planning Conference in Leicester because Trish Douglas, the national president, had chosen Parkinson's as her charity for the year. So I did the bit and went along, and I made the ladies laugh. I had such a good time over the next year, and I did lots of talks to the inner wheel. I filled bags with toiletries, I made cakes, I drew raffle tickets. And at the end of the year, I was invited to go to Glasgow to receive the money that they had made for us. Jane Asher is the president of Parkinson's UK, and she was supposed to go, but she was double booked, so they asked me instead. And at some point during the previous year, they'd said that they had raised about 10,000 the year before, so I thought I was going to receive a cheque for about 10,000. When they gave me a cheque for 51,000, I was speechless, and they doubled it by the end of that year. So all the inner wheel raised about 103,000 for Parkinson's, and it still makes me cry. Obviously, COVID has changed our lives forever, and Parkinson's is just one of the many charities that will be knocking at your door. Our charity is very proactive in preserving what funds they've had in the bank. They've done lots and lots of different projects during COVID and lockdown. They kept research going, and they looked after people who were offline. They set up virtual exercise sections, created a booklet, COVID and Parkinson's, and many other initiatives. Living with Parkinson's is horrible. Having a tremor is socially unacceptable. Dribbling from the corner of your mouth is not sexy. Side effects from the medication, hypersexuality, and writhing movements are just some of them. And knowing that your future is one of cognitive decline, dementia, and loss of independent mobility is grim. On the other hand, many people with Parkinson's develop an artistic bent, previously unidentified, which means we start to write poetry, paint, or do photography. In my case, I paint and I bake cakes, but not at the same time. However, if you go onto YouTube and you search on 7 Go Fracking, you can hear 6 of us who have recorded a panto. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the sound quality is not very good, but it'll waste for half an hour of your life if you've got it to spare. Thank you very much for listening, and I will answer any questions if I can do.
Thank you, Sheila. It's a fabulous journey, and it's been really nice to have you on. So do we have any questions from members? Please, could you unmute yourself, or just give me a wave and then we'll unmute you. Just while we're waiting for questions, Sheila, it'd be nice to know what's in your journey for the next couple of years. What have you got planned?
Well, it's difficult to plan with COVID, isn't it? I mean, this time last year, we were getting ready to go to South Africa. We had 10 days there, just 12 months ago, because we went as part of the Barmy Army. So by the end of the week, I knew Joe Root and Jimmy Anderson and all the rest of them, Stuart Broad, and I could do all the chanting. I could actually recognise some of them. I had a great time. It was wonderful. But I don't know about the next 12 months. Just get through it, I think. Yeah. And I really had no idea the importance of dopamine in our bodily, in the function of our bodies. I just always assumed it was a pleasure chemical. And yeah, well, it is that, and that's where the risk comes in, because some of our drugs work with that. So there is a particular drug that can give you obsessive compulsive disorders, and one of those is hypersexuality, which is, I mean, we laugh about it and make jokes about it, but it really can be devastating if a member of a couple gets that. But there's also things that you like to do that give you pleasure are the things that tend to cause the problem. It's like me and cake baking. I mean, that's what I like to do. But some people like to buy Kenwood chefs and then take them apart, or printers, and they take them, you know, they'll have a house full of half taken apart printers. So yeah, it can be a problem. And yes, it's got roles all over the brain as well. It's mood and all that sort of thing as well.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Okay, do you have any questions from members? Yes, Patrick. And then we've got Nick next. Patrick, just unmute yourself, please.
There we are. Yeah, well, thank you very much indeed, Sheila. I mean, it is a condition that is very much not very much understood, and it is actually pretty common, actually, in terms of this. And I have a family member with it now, and a great friend who passed away partly as a result of it. So I think the work you're doing is very important. And of course, the charity is nothing like as well publicized and well known as some of the others that are perhaps not dealing with such a serious condition.
Yes.
Just one little thing for your talks. Did you know that James Parkinson, who first described it and after which it's named, was one of the 10 founders of geology in Britain?
I did actually.
Yeah.
Yes, he did all kinds of things, didn't he?
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah.
Yes.
Very
He's a bit
much
like
so.
Leonardo da Vinci. You know, he was very good at lots
Yeah.
of different things.
The self-taught. Really, we took over his father's practice. I don't think he was ever actually a fully qualified surgeon, but he was very widely accepted and so on. But he did really made because up to that time, in 1810 or so, people were just dismissed as being, mental defectives or something.
Well, they did wonder whether or not Parkinson's actually existed before the Industrial Revolution, or whether in fact it was sort of triggered by the pollution from the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, I think Patrick's muted himself again. Okay. So, okay, thanks, Patrick. Nick?
Sheila, Parkinson's is very often thought of as a disease of old age, really. Yes. Clearly, you were a complete spring chicken at the time you got it. How common is that, and what sort of span does Parkinson's have?
Oh, there is a child known with it. It's somewhere in the UK. In fact, there are twin brothers that have got it somewhere in the UK. So from the age of about 8 to the age of about 88. I know that 1 in 7 was a statistic, which may have gone more than that now, but it was 1 in 7 under the age of 40. So we have a lot of working age groups of people who want to stay in work, because it seems very difficult for employers sometimes to understand that, we've still got our brains, we could still work, but we may work a little bit more slowly, and we may work at different times of the day, because we rely on our medication completely. If we don't get our medication, we would be frozen like statues. So, but if you can adapt people can stay at work for years. And I think part of this dopamine thing, and that working with the pleasure centres, means that we're quite cheerful, really, on the whole, in between the parts of depression, but we are quite a cheery lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have got room for one more question? Anybody has it? Yes, Moira. Just unmute yourself, please.
You've not mentioned that some forms of Parkinson's bring with it a special sort of dementia.
Yeah, Lewy body dementia.
Yeah, I have a brother who has very advanced Parkinson's and the Lewy body dementia.
Yeah, it's not nice.
It's not nice. It's not nice at all.
No.
But what proportion of Parkinson's sufferers have the Lewy body dementia?
I think it's very small, but I honestly couldn't quote a figure to you. But I don't think it's not high. Most people with Parkinson's die because they have become immobile because of their Parkinson's, and they therefore get pneumonia or pressure sores or something like that. So you don't tend to die directly of the Parkinson's, you die as a result of what it's done to your body. But it's not a nice condition at the end at all.
Thank you.
Well, it's great that you're informing people, Sheila, and please keep up the good work, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
During COVID and post, and hopefully you can continue spreading the message and doing all the important work that you're doing. So thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to see if Richard would like to mention anything on. I saw him on the phone a sec because he's on the phone. Okay, so, so we'll leave him to it. But sometimes he does talk about. He gives us updates on the COVID situation at the Leicestershire Hospital. So maybe that's one for next time. Today's attendance was 20. So that's good. It's 18 at the moment. And next week we have Professor Julian Ellis, OBE, Chair of Nottingham Prison Independent Monitoring Board, speaking to us about lockdown to lock up. I'm sure that's going to be interesting. If everybody could just unmute themselves, and we're able to then just say goodbye to each other.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Great to have you all, and see you all.
Bye all.
Take care.
Good talk.
It's gone.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.